Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, His Excellency Dr. Caleb Otto, Ambassador of Palau to the United Nations. Special thanks for you, for your moral clarity and your courage to stand up and sponsor this event. And special thanks to you, Ugoji, for your leadership and your vision, because without your vision and your work together, this would not have taken place today. Thank you. I come before you here today as a survivor of Islamic terrorism. I was 10 years old when Islamists blew up my home, burying me under the rubble wounded. My only crime was that I was a Christian. At 10 years old, I learned the meaning of the word infidel. I had a crash course in survival, living in a dark, cold bomb shelter, drinking stale water, and having grass and dandelions for food. At the age of 13, I dressed in my burial clothes, waiting to be slaughtered. And by the age of 20, I had buried most of my friends killed by Muslims. When I was growing up, I knew that only three kinds of people existed in the world: killers, victims, and bystanders. The lesson I learned gave me a fierce determination to fight evil and become a passionate leader against apathy and indifference. Today, throughout the world, more Christians are persecuted for their religion than any other religious or ethnic group. Approximately 200 million Christians in 60 countries are oppressed, abused, murdered solely because they are Christians. But it is in the Muslim world where the genocide has begun. 14 of the world's 15 most repressive countries for Christians are Muslim countries: Somalia, Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan, Sudan, Iran, Pakistan, Eritrea, Nigeria, Maldives, Saudi Arabia, Libya, Yemen, and Uzbekistan. 36 of the world's 50 are Muslim countries, including Qatar, Egypt, the Palestinian Authority territories, Jordan, Algeria, Tunisia, Malaysia, Turkey, and Indonesia. In many of these countries, churches are bombed or burned while worshippers are inside. Christians are kidnapped, brutalized, raped, sold into sex slavery, mutilated, shot, beheaded, or burned alive. These are not isolated occurrences. I read a story about a mother searching for her kidnapped son. ISIS fighters gave her some meat to eat and water to drink. When she asked about her son, they answered laughing, "You've just eaten him." I could cite hundreds of examples, each more stomach-churning than the one before. But I'll provide one example, horrific but also inspiring. In Iraq, 4 Christian children, all of them under 15, were abducted by ISIS and given a choice: conversion to Islam or decapitation. The children replied, "No, we love Yeshua," the Arabic name for Jesus. "We have always followed Yeshua." The choice was put to them again, and the children again chose Jesus. All 4 were immediately beheaded. I don't cite this example just for its shock value. I cite it to illustrate a mindset. It is not just a mindset of murder. It is a mindset of extermination, especially in parts of Syria and Iraq. Christian communities that predate the arrival of Islam by centuries are being eradicated. Radical Muslims, whether Sunni or Shiite, are not only killing or driving out Christians, they are systematically erasing every trace of Christian presence. That's genocide. Christians slaughtered by evil, feel abandoned by humanity, forsaken by the world's conscience, and rendered dead by the apathy of the United Nations. Almost exactly 100 years ago, on April 24th, 1915, the first genocide of the 20th century began. On that date, the Islamic Turks commenced their campaign of deportation, murder, and starvation against Christian Armenians. Next week, As we observe that solemn anniversary, we should remember the repeated failure of the world community to act against genocide, even in the face of overwhelming evidence, and contemplate what can we do to stop genocide occurring under our watch. The world needs to be awakened to the fact that this is not just a matter of persecution of Christians. It is not an issue of right and left, of conservative or liberal, nor is it an American, French, British, Danish, Canadian, or Australian issue. It is one that encompasses all of us, including moderate Muslims. Radical Islamists seek to subjugate everyone who does not adhere to their version of religion. Just because we are not at war with radical Islam does not mean that radical Islam is not at war with us. Pretending that war does not exist only ensures our defeat. The consequences of that defeat will be catastrophic for the civilized world. The United Nations Security Council is, as usual, impotent. And while the Human Rights Council ceaselessly foams at the mouth about perceived Israeli violations of Palestinians' rights, it doesn't seem to notice documented massacres of Christians by Muslims all over the world. It's ironic that Israel is the only country in the Middle East that has an increasing Christian population. Since 1948, the Christian population of Israel has increased 400%. But outside of Israel, Christians are disappearing. At the beginning of the 20th century, Christians represented 20% of the Middle East population. In 2015, they are only approximately 4%. It is time to call evil by its name. Islamic Jihad is killing in the name of their religion. It's time to throw political correctness in the garbage where it belongs. It's time to silence the apologists for evil, including members of the United Nations. Today, history and faith meet at a single time, in a single place, at the United Nations, to shape a turning point in a world standing on the cliff